you to the joint session. Welcome. We look forward to hearing your remarks.
That's great. First of all, let me say to the speaker, good morning, and I really appreciate your invitation and the lieutenant governors and the entire body. I followed your family closely, and I think your father, who preceded you as speaker, would be very proud of the job you're doing. Now, I know this is Educators' Day. I was invited. I was conflicted in a way because they said, come up and speak to us. And I said, well, I'm speaking to the House and the Senate. And they said, well, that doesn't matter. Come and speak to us. So I'm here with you, legislators. But I want you to know that I really believe that Educators' Day is something very important. It's a salute to our teachers. When our teachers create a situation that's a win-win for students, we all win. So thank you for having Educators' Day, and thank you for the good work that our teachers do here in New Mexico. Lieutenant Governor Sanchez, always great to see you when I'm back here in New Mexico. And let me just say, it's just a real honor to be home. I always enjoy my days at home. I've been up to Taos already, and I'm headed down to Las Cruces, and it's just great to be home. So thank you. President Pro Tem Papin and distinguished members of the New Mexico Legislature, tribal leaders, and honored guests, thank you for all that you do for New Mexico. And I wanted to just say a special word to the Majority Leader, Michael Sanchez. It's great to see you back. We were saying our prayers for you when I learned yesterday of your situation. You're back in the saddle, and I'm sure the Senate's very happy your steady leadership is in place. Thank you. Today I wanted to take a moment, too, to remember Speaker Ben Lujan. Ben was a great friend, a great leader, a wise counsel. He fought for the little guy, and he fought for working families, and I miss seeing him here in the chamber today. I also want to recognize Master Sergeant Jesse Baca and his wife, Maria. With them are Technical Sergeant Tim Wymore and his wife, Shauna, and Dina McKenna. Dina's husband, Sergeant Bill McKenna, made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation in Iraq. And Dan Sullivan, Dan's brother, Sergeant Tom Sullivan, also gave his life in service in Iraq. We honor your loss, and we thank you all for your sacrifice. Please stand up. Jesse served with great courage in Iraq, and I would urge all of you to get a chance to just say hello to him and visit with him. He's part of the proud tradition of military service of our state. I met Jesse and Maria just last year, and we began working on legislation to help our service members who were exposed to burn pits in Afghanistan and Iraq. For those who don't know, many of our troops, like Jesse, have been exposed to toxic substances from burning trash, munitions, and other materials at overseas bases. And I worked on a bill with Jesse and Maria to create a registry of veterans who were exposed so we could increase VA research and treatment. That bill became law last month. Thank you, Jesse and Maria, for your service at home and abroad. And thank you for helping those other veterans and putting in place that burn pit registry. Thank you. us here in public service want to make a difference. We want to lead New Mexico forward. And that's what I want to talk about today, our challenges and our opportunities. How together we can do what's best for our great state. In this economy, we have one main goal. Democrats, Republicans, one goal. That is jobs. Jobs for today and jobs for the future. Jobs that keep the American dream alive right here in New Mexico. We all know New Mexico has many valuable federal assets that supply very good jobs. And as a new member of the Appropriations Committee, I will make sure New Mexico has a place at the table. I will fight for those jobs and the families of our state. But we also know we face tough times with the federal budget. Many in Congress are pushing for deep cuts. So we have to make smart choices and find new ways to grow our economy, to build a diverse, strong private sector, one that complements our federal assets and thrives in a changing world. How do we do this? I believe we start with partnerships, innovation, and investment between the public and private sector, between federal, state, local, and tribal governments. Not simply spending money, but investing it wisely, especially in our rural areas where they are too often left behind. Places like Rio Arriba County, one of the most beautiful areas of our state. Today is also Rio Arriba Day here at the Legislature. And I met with students at Espanola Valley High School just a couple of months ago. Go Sun Devils! Those kids were great, and boy did they care about the Sun Devils. A lot of their questions were about the future, about getting a job, about making a life for themselves, and I think wondering if the American dream had passed them by. I want to say to them, no, it hasn't. We won't let that happen. Can innovation thrive in rural areas? I believe it can. One example is in healthcare. Last month, I visited Dr. Sanjeev Arora, Director of Project ECHO at University of New Mexico Health Sciences Center. Back in 2002, Dr. Arora was a physician specializing in hepatitis C. He was frustrated and discouraged by the lack of treatment for thousands of New Mexicans in rural and frontier areas. There were not enough specialists. Local providers did not always have the expertise to provide treatment. Dr. Arora saw a problem, and then he worked a solution, a combination of modern technology and old-fashioned common sense, two of New Mexico's greatest assets. What did he do? He set up a high-tech advice and training program, which he calls the One-to-Many Knowledge Network. It matches a specialist with 40 rural providers. They meet by video conference, co-managing patients, which leads rural medical professionals to become specialists themselves. And the original specialist learns too from more patients and diverse communities. Project ECHO began as a program to create hepatitis. It began as a program to treat hepatitis C patients, and it has flourished from its original mission. Today it includes more than a dozen knowledge networks, providing telehealth clinics for many specialties, including diabetes, pediatric obesity, geriatrics, and heart disease. During my visit, I observed a teleconference on rheumatology. It was absolutely fascinating, watching this partnership at work and seeing how urban and rural health providers provide for each other. The rheumatology tele-ECHO programs have more than doubled access to the best practice care. Training and certifying 24 primary care nurse practitioners, bringing quality care to rural areas and also to underserved urban communities. I was pleased to help secure a federal grant for this work when I was in the House, and last May, Project ECHO received another 3-year, $8.5 million federal health innovation grant to expand its work in New Mexico. I believe we can learn important lessons from a program like this. First, American innovation does not always come from the top down. Historically, our greatest innovators are at the grassroots, communities realizing a problem and working together. Second, government can help. Government has a role to play to set targeted grant funding for seed money to support these best practices, to take a good idea and help it expand to reach all New Mexicans and all Americans. And third, collaboration works. Project ECHO has been very much a partnership with federal and state support and nonprofit support from a $5 million 3-year grant from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. Last year, Dr. Aurora and his team trained more than 120 Veterans Administration physicians, nurses, and others using the ECHO model. And in June, Project ECHO signed an agreement with the Department of Defense to create a global pain management program for our armed forces. Project ECHO is a model of what is possible and an inspiring one. One day, not too far away, Project ECHO may become a new norm for medical practice across the nation, making a difference for folks in rural and underserved communities, and it was born right here in New Mexico, right here in New Mexico. How do we grow more innovation partnerships in New Mexico? Like a good farmer, we need to prepare the fields. Chili fields need water. Ask an acequia or irrigation district member. That little channel is the lifeline. Innovation needs information, and information needs a channel to flow. Currently, nearly half of our state's rural population does not have high-speed internet. This is not a luxury in today's world. Broadband is a necessity for businesses to use new technology to grow, for healthcare and education. With allies in the Senate, I'm advocating for the Federal Communication Commission's Connect America Fund. It aims to connect all rural Americans by 2020. This is a very important goal. We cannot allow our rural communities to be left behind in a digital age. Some important projects are already underway in New Mexico. There are obstacles, but we're making good progress. It took our farmers many generations to develop our irrigation infrastructure. We can't wait that long for our innovation infrastructure. Technology is a path forward. But today's rural communities, the foundation of New Mexico, need stability. They can build for the future, and so I will work with senators of both parties and from all the rural states to make sure this happens. To ensure the federal government does right by rural communities for critical funding for payment in lieu of taxes, for secure rural schools, and for the USDA Rural Development Agency. Now, think a little bit about USDA. USDA made grants of over $220 million in New Mexico last year, working with community partners for better housing, for utility line upgrades and smart grid improvements, for water and other infrastructure projects, and energy efficiency for small family-run businesses, not just spending, but investment. In my visits to rural counties, in my meetings with businesses and local leaders, folks tell me how important these investments are, how they make a difference for rural families who need to make sure we stand behind them. We are all aware of the challenges we face. New Mexicans are hearing and living through the federal budget debates. Fiscal cliff, sequestration, debt ceiling. We have to get our fiscal house in order. Move to a sustainable budget, but in a balanced way, that grows our economy, that creates jobs, that protects the most vulnerable, that helps families get through the hard times. That is our challenge. Taking a hatchet to the federal budget is not the way to go. This hurts our nation and it hurts New Mexico. We need to invest in education, in research and development, in infrastructure. I commend the governor for her commitment of $10 million to infrastructure, and I commend all of you as legislators for your ongoing commitment over the years to investing in infrastructure. That's what has made us stronger, and thank you all for that. You know, we may have differences, philosophical or policy-wise differences, but that money on infrastructure, that money will be well spent. We need more of that, not less. Government leaders, business executives, most realize that unbalanced cuts are bad for jobs. President Obama has pursued both spending cuts and major targeted investments. Innovation grows our economy, but not if we starve research and development. Not if we've got infrastructure investments. Think about this. In 2009, a couple of figures that I think are important of where we've been and where we're going. In 2009, federal funding for research and development had dropped to half the share of GDP that it was in 1960. Spending on education and training is also lower as a percentage of the federal budget than it was in the 1980s. The World Economic Forum ranked U.S. infrastructure second in the world in 2001. Now, we are 24th. According to the Congressional Budget Office in 2010, we spend 2.4% of GDP on infrastructure. What do they spend in other places in the world? We spend 2.4%, Europe 5%, China 9%. In the 70s, our nation had the most college graduates in the world. Now we're 14th. We should be moving ahead in these areas, not falling behind. Now, one of the areas that gives me the most inspiration is seeing our New Mexico small business community, seeing the jobs that they create. And New Mexico really is a community of moms and pops and small businesses. 96% of our employers in New Mexico are these small businesses. But these aren't just numbers we're talking about. These are hardworking families. Families like Mike Trujillo. Mike manages a family-owned small business. I had the chance to visit Mike's business down in Roswell. It's called the El Charro Tortilla Factory. He also serves, and this is what we see a lot of in Mexico, small business owner. He serves in the National Guard and was a Chaves County Commissioner. While he was deployed to Afghanistan, his wife, Maria, a teacher, ran the business. When he was in Iraq, he attended county commission meetings by phone. In Washington, I can't tell you how much I'm honored to work for families like the Trujillos, for families in rural New Mexico, for families throughout our state. This is our state. Hard-working small business people like that. As I said when I started, we all want to move New Mexico forward. We can find common ground. We can invest in the future, and we can make progress. That is the New Mexican spirit, and it's the American spirit. And we have seen this before in our history, even in our toughest times. So I want to thank you, all of you here, all of you elected leaders, for your public service, for your desire to meet the challenges we face, to make a better future for New Mexico. It's my privilege to work with you, and I hope we have a true working partnership between the federal government and the state of New Mexico and the legislature to make a better future for New Mexico. It's my privilege to work with you closely, and I want to thank you for allowing me to come to share a few thoughts with you today. God bless all of you, and God bless New Mexico. Thank you.